Okay, hi guys, it's Nastassia Janvier. We're back with Broken Conversations, episode 2, and we're talking about women leaders, women in leadership, right? And what does that mean? How does that look? So today I am joined with lovely, lovely people. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to get the ball rolling from there. Oh, also, excuse my voice, okay? I'm sick. There's a little congestion going on, right? Mucus. It might have been too much information, but that's the voice that we're hearing today, and we're gonna deal with it because what? We stick together.
Women's Coalition.
All right, so go ahead and take us off, Amryss.
Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Amryss Clark. I'm currently a sophomore at FSU. I major in criminology with a minor in entrepreneurship. I'm currently an entrepreneur. I'm the owner of Minx Next Door, at Minx Next Door on Instagram, which is a beauty company that I founded here in Tallahassee. It offers makeup services as well as like meat lash strips. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but I have them on. She has them on. But yeah, in 2019 we will be expanding, so be on the lookout for that. With my business, it actually allowed me to reconnect to my creative side. So I don't know where I'm going to end up when I graduate. I'm going to have my degree, of course, but I just want to have use my platform to inspire other aspiring entrepreneurs to basically go after whatever they want to do. Because I don't know if you guys read the Bible, but God gave a person 2 talents, 1 talent, and they multiplied it and it became 10. So.
Hello everyone. My name is Jasmine Ali, and I am a senior at Florida State University, majoring in political science, and I'm also, or formerly, a candidate here in Leon County for county commissioner, and it was so fun to run in the Capitol. What I really found in doing that is that this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I love to do. It never felt like work. Even if when I was all up all night crunching numbers, it was always fun to me. So I think this is definitely something I want to continue to do and continue to be involved in once I graduate. Additionally, I'd like to go to law school and study law so that ultimately I can help make changes to our Constitution, especially here in the state of Florida, because I believe that a lot of people have been disadvantaged because they do not have that knowledge of the law, and there are not people that look like us at the table when it comes to making amendments to the Constitution. So that's something I definitely like to do, and I look forward to our conversation today.
Woo!
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Maddie Schaff. I'm a senior at Florida State University studying environmental science, and when I graduate I hope to go to law school in New York potentially. I want to focus on law, putting forth policy changes and lobbying for things against environmental racism, because I think that's a very big problem in America, as well as pollution in our cities. So basically lobbying against that too.
Hello everyone, my name is Octavia Thomas. I am a senior here at Florida State. My major is criminology. However, my master's degree will hopefully be in higher education and public policy. The reason being is because I want to create policies that stop African Americans and other minorities from getting in institutions of higher education. So that's what I plan to do. Also, I got a lot of other things that's going on. That's just because I got a lot of talent. So y'all will see soon in 2019.
Oh yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Come through. Okay, so female leaders, female dominators. How is it? Yes, at names, but you could drop that later. We could drop that later. How is it being a female leader in the environments that you guys are in? I know Amryss is here in the entrepreneurial world. We got Octavia in the higher education world. Well, you're everywhere all at once. And we have both of you in the realms of both politics, and Maddie specifically in STEM with politics, and that's actually really special because we don't have a lot of people going in STEM in politics. So, Octavia, why don't you take us off with? Why don't you take us off with being a student leader in the work that you do? What challenges that you face being a woman leader in your environment?
So as I was telling, So she's Nastassia to you, but she's Tazzy to me, so I'm gonna use that version. So as I was telling Tazzy earlier, being a woman in leadership at Florida State for me means a lot because there's a lot of layers to me being a woman here. It's definitely me being Black, in addition to me being a woman, in addition to me just being human. So I think women in leadership for me, it means, like I said, a lot of different layers. So I also have to be faced with being Black and being a woman. So when I talk about women in leadership, from my perspective, it's gonna come from a Black woman's perspective, which is very difficult because sometimes not necessarily being at the table with people that don't look like me is a struggle for me. It's also people that look like me and they just might be Black males. So I think that struggle can happen in any space for me, especially at Florida State. It's not always at the table for the people that don't look like me. I'm waiting for Maddie's answer.
My answer? What the heck? We're going like this?
No, you don't have to. Right? This isn't a line. This is a line.
I've been called out, so
Yeah.
being a woman in STEM was interesting at Florida State. I believe like a lot of my classes are male dominated, and even being a woman in that space, like we're forced to do group projects, so we're forced to be in like a small area where we are put that right in our face that like maybe someone doesn't necessarily respect my knowledge despite my GPA, despite my experience, like and I think that's something that I've worked with, as well as like going into politics. Like that's also very male dominated, as we can see, and it's kind of like expecting adversity but not accepting it, you know what I mean? Like not taking that for what it is and being okay with it. So every step of the way I'm trying to change the minds of people who already have a preconceived notion of what I'm capable of. So yeah.
I feel that. I think you tackled this two-step problem where you're attacking one, the change that you want to see in your actual field, and then two, the change that you have to go through as being a woman to bring about that change. And that's hard because first you're faced with like this personal, not trauma, but this personal problem that you have to go through for people even like to hear you out, to hear what you have to say, and then two, what are we even trying to do? So yeah, I definitely feel that.
Well, for me,
Look, I'm going
not because there's just so, I just got so much to say about this. As a woman in politics, and for me, like, you know, I just ran, and I'm a young Black woman. That's the most underrepresented.
Can we give a round of applause real quick for that?
Y'all are so extra. That's the most underrepresented group in the United States government, and so there were a lot of times where I felt like maybe even in a daily routine, right? And we, you know, Richard Garzol and I, we both have a mentor who's a state rep, and he sat down both of us and was talking to us, but he looked at me and he was like, you know, you are a woman, so we can't really relate to you on that level, but what I'm going to tell you is that things are going to be very different for you, and even in your daily routine with getting up and the time that you have to get ready and being able to get to things as quick as other people, it's not going to be the same. And so you have to prepare yourself for that and find ways to adapt so that you can be just as or even better than your male counterparts. And you'll find most of the time you have to, like, you don't have a choice but to command respect because it's not going to be given to you. And also just like knowing how to deflect and not even entertain misogyny and like sexual advances and people telling you how you should present yourself. I mean, like from the first time I think I filed, someone told me, oh, you need to lose 20 pounds to be more appealing. And then later on, they're like, oh, you need to, you know, press and wear your hair not like curled, and you need to wear more cleavage and a shorter dress, and all types of disgusting and weird, crazy things. And you know, I never take it personal, and I always learn to just disregard it and keep going. I think one of the hardest things that I have to deal with, and that I had to deal with, was when to speak on something and when to just stay quiet. and it during like the whole Me Too stuff, because that was like a big issue during my campaign. I really wanted to say something, especially even with my own experiences. And I had a man who was already elected. When I asked him, like, because let me just say there aren't that many female electeds that can help me out or give me advice. So most of them are men. And I asked him about it, and his response was, nobody likes a tarnished candidate. And I was like, wow, that's deep. That's really the nature, the reality of this field. So.
Yeah. I definitely feel the over-sexualization. A lot of people don't know, but you took me under your wing when you went into your campaign, and it was actually a really good experience because I was able to get the reality of politics outside of a university, but actually in a real world. So for me to not even be a candidate running and to experience that over-sexualization from people around me is crazy. Because when they address you, you think they're going to address you for, hey, what do you bring to the table?
Right.
What's your qualifications? What's your experience? No, it's,
you're pretty.
would you like to get dinner?
Right.
It's, do you have a boyfriend? Why is that the first question that you're asking?
Why does it even matter? Like, and that's the thing, like the double standard, because there's a lot of times where it's like, you wouldn't even be asking me this or care about this if I was a male. And so you'll see, like, we see victory, awesome stories all the time of like, oh, a 19-year-old boy was elected to the House of Representatives, a 20-year-old boy was doing this and doing that. But you'll see probably, I think there's like 1 or 2 young women in this country in our age group that are elected, because the fight is a totally different fight. Totally different fight. The respect is not easily earned or given. So
and I think in that atmosphere, women are constantly faced with compromising some form of dignity and the respect factor for themselves or standing up for what they believe in. And it's a constant, what is the balance? How do I make the right move to know I'm going to be well respected, but to know that I'm not letting go of my standards?
And I know we haven't started the conversation yet, but Amryss, I'm gonna get to you. But over-sexualization plays a big role into the self-esteem of young Black women, because it's something that, and like I said, this could be across the board too, but I'm coming to you from a Black woman's perspective, because it's something that we cannot control. We just naturally have those actually sexy bodies, and we can't control it. So it's a thing that's embedded in society to automatically over-sexualize women. But then when you're Black on top of that, and it's just in your genes to be sexy, now it's like I can't even turn it on and turn it off. And automatically I'm viewed in society as something that's too threatening because I have a body now. And I think for me being at Florida State, when I first got here, that was one of the things that I couldn't help, because I didn't even realize how curvy I was till Florida State told me. And then everybody made it a big deal because I'm going in the Senate. I thought I was clean. So clean, super clean in suits, and I had a little junk in the trunk, so I couldn't help it. And it was one of those things that for me, everybody else looked at around me as, hold on, who she thinks she is? Why she in here wearing that? Oh, she thinks she can wear that and tell me what bills to pass? Oh, this is funny. And it played a really big role into how I felt confidence-wise. And like the TED Talk we watched earlier that said there's a difference between confidence, esteem, and worth. And those 3 things automatically tie together, and society's expectation of over-sexualization automatically off rips. If you're a Black female, you're going to get it from birth. But go ahead. I apologize.
And I feel that because I can only imagine how you would have to experience that in entrepreneur and actually seeking out business relationship with people when it's a male-dominated field. So how do you kind of maneuver that sector?
Okay, so for me, like coming off of what Jasmine said, I'm young, I'm a woman, I'm Black. The 4th one for me is a big factor is I came from a single parent home. So I'm gonna go backwards. So from the single parent home, I was raised by my dad. I wasn't raised by my mother. So me not seeing a woman, like I see my aunts and my grandma maybe, but me not being raised by my mom, I wasn't able to get, personally for me, that leadership skill that I needed to attain in order to be successful in entrepreneurship. Luckily though, I was surrounded by female entrepreneurs. So my aunt, she had like a hot dog cart. My grandma, she used to do like a cleaning business. So that kind of inspired me. So it always kind of pushed me to go, hey, maybe I could do whatever I wanted to do. Like, maybe I could start my own business. The third one being that I'm Black. In entrepreneurship, right now there are a lot of Black female entrepreneurs who are like coming up a lot. So it's a little bit easier for you to see somebody and go, okay, I can do that too, you know. And then because they know there aren't a lot of like Black female entrepreneurs, they're more willing to like help you and give you like the skills, or you know, like mentor you. And then another good thing is in Tallahassee they have a lot of like entrepreneurship resources. So like maybe was it Friday? I went to like a workshop. It was free. Yeah, Startup Week.
Yay.
I really advise everybody to do that next year because it's really beneficial.
What is it called?
Tallahassee Startup Week.
Okay.
So it's like facilitated by a lot of faculty and staff from TCC.
How did you hear about it?
Yeah.
How
How
did
did
you
I hear about
yeah.
it? So this guy who I had a conversation with about my marketing for my business, he was actually the person who headed the workshop. So it was a little bit accessible for me. And then me being, what did I say, y'all? Black,
Single,
female.
Female.
Okay, me being a female, entrepreneurship is all about your drive, and it's all about like how bad do you want it. Because in entrepreneurship, you don't really have people to push you. You have to push yourself. So that's the hardest thing about entrepreneurship. Like you literally have to keep going. Like when you brand your company once, you're gonna brand your company about 2 more times, 3 more times. Like Pepsi, they rebranded like 30, maybe 20 times. But in entrepreneurship, there are a lot of more sexual advances at you because they know that, hey, I need to do this, or I need to get here, or I may not have the funds that I need to draft up a contract, or you know what I'm saying? Or me being from a single parent household, my dad, he wasn't educated with any type of legal resources that you need for a business, you know what I'm saying? So they're more like, oh, so you want to go out on a date with me?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll give you this. It's always, I give, you have to give, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about you being that independent Black woman, and then me being young. I remember, and this isn't just from the opposite like gender, I remember my first entrepreneurship expo event that I was a vendor at. This woman came up to me. She's just like, hey, how are you? You know, I'm like, I'm good. Then I went into my little elevator pitch about my business. And she said, how old are you? I said, I'm 19 years old. You know what she said to me? She was like, oh, you young. I'm like, baby, what does that mean? I'm 19. I said, well, how old are you? And she was like, I think she said maybe like 40 something. I was like, well, that's funny because we're both in the same space right now. I'm 19, you're 40 something. So that should tell you something.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Nice. Move quicker.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? So all of those factors play into entrepreneurship. But if you see something and you want it, it's all about how bad do you want it. So you have to go get it.
And a lot of people in our society don't realize the fact that everybody is not in the same season. When it's your time to grow, it's not the same person. The person left to you or right to you time to grow. But in dynamics, sure. In the dynamics of you being raised by your father, that's something I actually went through. I was raised by my father, a single father, and growing up with that, I think because he was protecting his little girl, the objectives were completely different.
Yeah.
I think that overall, all parents have a consensus of we got to keep our children safe. We got to keep our children happy and get them make sure they have an education. For my father, a priority was make sure that she's not sexualized by anyone. Doesn't matter who it is. So with that objective in mind, leadership, in my opinion, when I was growing up was you can do anything, you can be anything as long as you don't get pregnant at a young age.
Yeah.
That was successful leadership.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up in. And it's bad that my biggest fear was not becoming 16 and pregnant. That is
real fear.
That's horrible. That in my head constantly every other day. Make sure you're not 16 and pregnant because that's what was hammered. Guys only want this. Guys only want that. So when I seeked out opportunities, it was always and if it was interactions with opposite male, it was always don't take advantage of me. So I think that we need to start having conversations about how do we maneuver in those environments where you are being over sexualized, and how do you demand your own respect but also not ruin the opportunity. So I kind of want to get some insight from you guys, like how do you guys talk about those things? I know for me, I like to pull that person to the side and say, I blatantly say, and of course it's easier depending on the age. Depending on the age, it's easier to talk about those things, but I literally say, I did not like this because this. And I've only started doing that since I had the opportunity to come to college, because I've been more comfortable with my voice. Before, I would just push it under the rug. Oh, you did that? No, boy, you didn't do that. What are you talking about? You didn't try. No. I act like it didn't happen, but that wasn't a real reality because I was living in my own fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't know who's gonna watch this.
Girl, it don't matter. Whoever watches, it don't matter. It does not matter.
Okay, so what I will say is, because I get it all the time, is even from men who could be like my grandfather. It's so
Your great.
my great grandma. I'm like, how do you not like my what? I was like, you don't feel uncomfortable. Like I feel you should feel more uncomfortable than me.
Yeah.
But I don't. Whatever.
It's wrinkles, y'all. Like, okay, never mind.
Look, I had to scoot up in my seat.
So what I do, there's two things, right? For me, you get one of two or both.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do first, right, is if there's some incentive for me, like if I'm still if I haven't fulfilled my goal yet and I still gotta work with you on some level, I'm gonna milk that cow.
Be real. Let's be real. Be real.
I'm gonna milk that cow. Now here's the thing though, I'm gonna milk the cow, but I ain't gonna massage the cow. Because guess what? Because I'm gonna get what I need, but in the end, if the transaction does not go right, and I pull the cat out of the bag, you're gonna be the one looking sick. Because I wasn't entertaining you, I was still doing strictly business. And so on the other end, if it's just too much for me, if I just feel disrespected, if I feel like I'm just straight up being taken advantage of, or that there's no point in me even engaging or entertaining this, oh baby, you're on the block list. Like like when I see you in real life, it's like, who are you? Hey.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. This has been like such a hard thing to confront, just in general, because you might think like something like the campus is so big it won't get around. Like if I shut this down, it won't like impact me in the future, but it might, and that's something that like we have to deal with. I think it's also important to talk about how it's not just a sexual advance that can be like over sexualization. It can be like a male coworker or a higher up coming up to you and talking about another female coworker or a client or something like that, and sexualizing them in front of you, and that kind of sends the message like,
that's block list.
I'm absolutely being sexualized in this workspace, in this environment, in this education because of who I am and how like maybe you weren't thinking about it, but then it brings to the front exactly what's going through their mind, and it's like it makes your skin crawl because you're like, now you gotta look over your shoulder an extra couple times, and I don't know the answer because it depends where you are. Like politics, that can impact if you get the next thing.
And it does. And you know, oh my gosh, I'm broadcasting the world to the like this is gonna come back and haunt me.
No, it's not.
Whatever.
But
I'm still alive, I promise you. I promise you good.
I had to this conference. It was in another state. And I was with a friend there, and we happened to meet this guy. He worked in the corporate world he worked for Walmart.
Yeah.
And he was up high in their corporate standings, whatever.
Yeah.
And we went out to dinner with like a bunch of other representatives and a bunch of people. And then afterwards, we're like, oh man, like this conference went all day. We didn't even get to explore this city that we're in. And he's like, oh, well, come on, y'all. Like, we'll go out. We'll go do something. And we're a little naive, like, oh, okay, let's go. And so this man takes us to the strip club. And we're like, oh, okay, well, yeah. So, like, we're sticking together. We're looking at him like, you can do what you do. We're just going to sit over here, like, whatever. But, like, he comes to us to talk to us while we're there. And something that he said that I'll never forget was, wow, it's so good that you two could come in here and be normal because that'll get you far in your career. And he was like, this is where, you know, like strip clubs, football games, you know, all those type of events are where men make business connections and transactions.
That
So
is
as a
crazy.
woman, and especially in a social field, you have to be able to go to places where you might not be comfortable or necessarily welcomed, because that's where your business will be made and that's where the deals will be struck. So
That is crazy.
it's necessary.
Wow, because that's the culture of it.
That's the
Yeah.
culture.
Let's shout out Being Mary Jane really quickly because
Yeah.
her best friend. Oh my gosh, this is not Being Mary Jane. This is
Insecure.
Insecure because I just got the shows messed up. So Molly she's an attorney and she had to go to a hockey game where that was like, you know, kind of the guys thing and basically pitch herself
Right.
on getting a higher compensation for her work. And she did not feel comfortable at all. And even in that space, the guy was like, her boss was basically brushing her off, right? So that's the reality that we live in.
Yeah.
We have to step in those spaces, but when we step in those spaces, are we even welcome? And are we even taken seriously? But I actually wanted to give you guys a story because this story was an eye-opening story. So when I was a couple of years back, I had the opportunity to represent an organization, and with the organization I was working with, there was a lot of males in that field. So my, I guess you could call her advisor, you know, introduced me to someone that she said was going to take me to a lot of places and this is a good connection to have. So, you know, naturally, I'm eager, I want to take advantage of those opportunities. I ended up taking advantage of the opportunity and they basically, the guy, we'll just call him Bob for lack of better terms, Bob took me out. Right? And I took advantage of that opportunity, but I almost felt like when they started going left, I was reprimanding myself for even taking advantage of the opportunity, for not knowing that this was like a setup for myself. Like, why didn't I see the signs earlier? Or I put myself in the position to be interacted with in this way.
Well, isn't that just the problem?
That
Like, the
is
fact
the
that
problem.
we are like the victim of this process,
Yes.
and then we're like, oh, it's my fault.
Yes.
But it's their fault
Yes.
for putting you in that
Or
situation.
you feel like
Yes.
you're obligated to be nice
Yeah.
because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yes.
But if they're that bold to come up to you and say whatever, hey, little mama, I had this one guy, beginning of care summer, hey, little black, excuse me, I have a name.
Girl, it's somebody in my
I
care
have
class
a
right now, and
name.
we're not gonna get on Care Summer Bridge. Shout out to the Center for Academic Retention and
Yes.
Enhancement. We love y'all. But
Amazing, you're providing me the
amazing
opportunity
program.
to get a
When
higher
I tell
education.
you, I'm still hot right now to this day, and we seniors, and he's in leadership, so I'm not gonna say his name. But Care Summer Bridge, he stuck his tongue out to me and did that little.
Oh my
And
God.
I've been hot since Summer
For
Bridge.
you guys listen, for y'all that cannot see this on our platform, the ones that are listening on YouTube,
And now I try to
on Spotify
brush
and
it off
stuff.
because he's a little bit better. He's grown up, and people grow and people change. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it's
Now we
a
have to
problem.
explain.
So the over sexualization thing is a problem, and I think one of the ways to kind of tackle these problems is to have female representation and female mentors that can kind of guide us through their experiences and how to, you know, take advantage of our experiences. So do you guys have female mentors that basically help you guys with these things? Do you have role models, or is that a thing in leadership that do you feel like every man is for themselves?
Y'all know how I feel.
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
do you want to go first or do you want to go last? Let's just
I'm
start
gonna
there.
go first, and you want me to go last.
you can go
You
last.
can go last. You can ice us
Okay,
off.
so for me, I have a number of different role models in my life, and I feel like they're for certain purposes. So my aunt, because I never really lived with my mom, she's like my mom figure. But she also, you know, not everyone is perfect, so she does have flawed characteristics or whatever. But she helps me with the, you got to go up and get it yourself. You have to be independent. You know what I'm saying? As far as Octavia is the structure. She's the, you need to do this, this, and this at this, and this time. You know what I'm saying? She's that support that you need when you, girl, I'm in this stagnant position of my life right now where I don't know, like, which way I want to go. But Octavia is there to tell me, like, I'm glad you're in this position right now because this is your down season. When God blesses you, you're going to be in your up season. You know what I'm saying? Who else? my pastor. That's my like spiritual like mentor. So any guidance I need is from the Bible. My grandma as well. But I feel like everyone should have someone that can help them throughout their lifetime, because we're young. We need people who have already been through what we've been through. You know what I'm saying? Especially as Black women, especially as whatever ethnicity or race you may identify with. You need someone who can help you, because it helps you, like, it helps resonate better. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a counselor right now. She's the not opposite race, but she's white. I'm Black. So the things that I may be talking about, I can kind of see her like brush it over her head because she doesn't really get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus my friend who's talking, she's Black. Her counselor is Black. She tells me that it resonates way better because she understands like exactly what we go through. So I feel like it's very necessary. Now your turn.
I was just trying to see if anybody else wanted to talk on this. But everybody knows how I feel. If you go to Florida State, I do apologize. You know how I feel about mentorship. I think it's very important and it's very vital to all communities, actually. And the reason being is because, so we're all, as humans, we're all on different levels of understanding society. And I think us as educated females, we have to show the next generation how to have access to that education privilege and how to maneuver it being a female. And it's one of those things that, yeah, it's sad that we have to have mentorship to do that, because we should automatically be instilling in our kids what is, I guess, morally correct, but society doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So mentorship is very important and it's a very vital aspect to our communities and our societies. And I think for me as a Black woman, it's 10 times blown out the window, because nobody's gonna tell you if somebody doesn't tell you.
Yeah.
And so I always try to start young. You try to instill it in them early, and that's one of the reasons in which I'm going into higher education, potentially, in my master's. Hopefully we're gonna claim that.
Yes, it's
It's because I found that skill and I found that niche in college, that I'm able to connect to first generation students, that I'm able to connect to, and not all students that I've mentored have been first generation either. So freshman students and students that are going through the same things that I've already been through. Like Amryss said, you need somebody that has already been through it, but you need multiple. So not all of my mentors are all females. I have the female mindset and I have the male mindset, because you need the males for business. You need the females to show you how to operate and to show you how to become a woman in leadership. So I think that mentors are very important. I think everybody needs a mentor. And like Amryss said, for different reasons. Not all of prayer can't get you through. Well, yes, it can. The Bible can't get you through everything. So there are some things that's not mentioned in the Bible. There are things that are happening in today's society that weren't even thought of or written down in the Bible back then. So I need somebody else that's right here, right now, to tell me how to get through what I'm getting through right here and right now. Also, mentorship just provides, it's a whole nother level of education. It's the education that's not written down in the books. It's the things that when I'm struggling as a Black woman, who gonna tell me that they understand what that feels like?
Yeah.
That's not written in that AMH textbook that you just had. So
not all environments are as welcoming as the environment that you set out. So I think in some professions, it's very much so a get it on your own, because I had to struggle to get to this position. And I think that a lot of times that can come from people that look like us and people that don't look like us. So
I can speak to that.
yes, please
Let's
do,
go.
because I think in politics, that's one of the things where it's, oh baby, I had to struggle to get here.
Right.
You're gonna struggle too.
Right.
that's an attitude thing.
Right.
But go ahead.
And you know, I actually find it to be more of an issue among like people that look like us, African Americans. But I think that feeds into a bigger issue, and like you know, it also that looks also into another big issue that we have as a community, is a failure to do succession planning, and that's because like that mindset has gone. But I think among some older women, it's a lot worse, because they not only have to fight as an African American, but they had to fight even harder as a woman, because women then, when they were fighting, didn't have the same rights that we have now. And so it's in this field, in this area, it can be hard because there are there is a drought of female leaders who can help mentor you. So I have one. She's a legislator in Georgia, and she's so awesome. Like, she says whatever she wants. She doesn't let people, take advantage of her or talk to her any kind of way. Like, she's totally outspoken and will shut them down. And I had to go out of my way to find her, but she has been a help, and she's actually the only female mentor that I have. All of my mentors are men, and that's just because I've had just a really hard time finding mentors that are women, and then like the ones that I do have, the others that are women aren't really mentors in this field that can really help me with some of the stuff that I might face. So I notice if I do try to go to them with an issue or something I'm facing, they can't even understand or help me, because they didn't even understand like that these things were an issue. Politics in the world of it is just cutthroat and it's raw, and if you and not everybody understands that or can even fully digest that. So they'll be like, yeah, just don't take it. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm not gonna take it, but like say like huge bill or deal is on the table, like I can't just run away. Like I gotta still try to get it. So there are certain issues that come up that sometimes I've just gotta face it myself.
There's also like a transgenerational gap between us. And I think Common says it in one of his songs, we need the wisdom of the elders and the energy of the young people. And that's mentorship, literally. I need what you've already tried, what didn't work for you, what did work for you, what's next, and then I need my own energy, my own education to recreate whatever you tried to do that didn't work or did work in order for us to make change. Like, that's just sustainability. That creates sustainability by having mentorship programs. And I think we have a lot of mentorship programs. They're just not as sustainable, and we need more women represented into those as well to give back. Because it doesn't make sense that it takes you that long to find a woman in politics. We get that the struggle is harder, but we all know that. So we need more representation across the board in order for everybody to have somebody in some profession to give back to that next generation that's coming up. That way that struggle is a little lightened along the way.
Yeah. And it honestly is like at first a tough pill to swallow, because I remember going in and I would see like even here locally, like we have some other black women who are either involved in politics or already elected. Right. And I remember like trying to go to them and talk to them and like build a connection with them, and like you're either brushed off or like they've had to remove a part of themselves to be in this field, and so they've lost touch with that you still have that part, and that they should try to at least help you keep it and and bring you up, but they just don't. It's like it's almost like a bitterness, and you feel it when you try to go ask for help or at least ask for advice. It's just not given.
That's the culture that we kind of need to dismantle as we're even trying to get in these positions, which is, again, a two-part tackle that we constantly have to go through. But we've examined leadership in, I think, a sense of corporation or an idea of with society. How do you examine leadership as women with yourself in different environments like family dynamic or friendships or relationships? How does that leadership look for you guys?
I want to go first.
Yes!
Okay, so once again, being that I grew up in a single parent household, leadership in my perspective was, okay, I have to be the mom for my little sister. And being that my dad, he was dealing with some type of, personal issues, I had to also sometimes be the father in the situation. So here I had to like be the mom and the dad in order to survive. I wasn't doing it because I genuinely wanted to. Like, if I didn't cook, my sister wasn't going to eat, or I wasn't going to eat, you know what I'm saying? So me coming onto a college campus and trying to do leadership, I didn't have the correct idea of leadership, simply because family dynamics is completely different from like real life, like outside of your home, you know what I'm saying? So it was like the skills that I had weren't transferable to the position that I had. So it was like trying to teach myself, like, how is an organization supposed to be ran, or how do you be a leader for people who aren't your family? That was the biggest issue, and I'm still learning that right now, because I've always been a leader for myself. So that's still like a
A
going
constant.
it's a continuous process. So yeah,
I feel that.
I think so.
I feel because there's no I guess blood ties with those
Yeah.
people, so they don't have to listen to you, even though your
Yeah.
sister didn't have to listen to you in a sense.
Yeah.
So in that dynamic, I do relate. Me too. Like I said before, growing up in a single parent household with my father, he wasn't around much, so I had to be the leader for my household, for my sister and myself. So. That was different because I missed out on a lot of my childhood.
Yes.
I missed out on a lot of my childhood, and I grew up faster than I did, and I think a lot of women have to grow up faster than they do. And in that sense, I think that it kind of takes the innocence away from you because you're exposed to so much worldly things at such a young age. And when you get older, you realize, wow, I didn't have to be doing all of this as such a. I shouldn't have known so much about finances at 7, 8 years old. You know, being evicted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that's something I had to come face to face with.
Yeah.
And I think that it naturally just makes you want to bulk up and put on your, big shoes and say, let's go. What do you need me to do? And I think that also plays a role in my relationship life because I've always had a sense of taking control that I don't know when to let go of control now. So maybe over analyzing that dynamic. High five! I admitted it. I admit it.
I'm proud.
All right. I'm actually gonna broadcast this because this is okay. So I am admitting that I have a problem with taking control. Well, it's over taking too much control and not letting other people take control. Boom, there you have it. I said it.
Amen.
Okay.
She ain't gonna say it again.
I wasn't gonna post it. That's the question. Because it's staying right
I
here.
just got that notification.
So listen. So with that dynamics, I think that as I was growing up, I've always had a concept in my mind. I have to be in charge of this because they're not gonna let me be in charge of it later if I don't take it now. I have to say this is how I feel because if I don't say it now, they're not gonna let me say it later. So it's become a problem where I automatically overassume how people feel or conclusions because in my mindset it's linear. A plus B equals C, D, F, G. And you might be
of them
You might be So it's hard as a woman leader. Just being in tune with my feelings and my emotion and recognizing that it doesn't have to be logical. It does not. And I till this day I feel powerful. I feel like I have a lot of influence where I also feel tired, drained, sad, lonely.
Can I say something else?
How?
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
But piggybacking off of what you said, it also has a large effect on your character and how well do you know yourself? Because you're so caught up in the things that you have to do for daily life, and now it's dang, I'm on my own. So you don't realize certain things, or you don't realize your strengths. You know your weaknesses. You're well aware of your weaknesses because growing up in a single parent household, you hear about it all the time. You're not doing this right. But now it's okay, I know I'm going to be successful as a Black woman. I know I know my capabilities, but to what extent do I know my capabilities? So that's a continuous process that I feel like all Black women have to go through because we all have different milestones. So when we graduate college, boom, that's it. That's a milestone. Then okay, what happens after college?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tackle a lot of what y'all said in a lot of different areas. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm gonna tie this back to mentorship because, then I'm gonna hop out of mentorship. I promise y'all. But the reason being is because a lot of us don't find who we are or find what we do until we get to college, and not necessarily is that too late, but it can start earlier.
Yeah.
It can start when you're a kid and when you know what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
You have that from the time that you're in kindergarten and you're exposed to the world then. So that's one of the reasons why I think mentorship is even more important because a lot of us don't get the experience of trying to find out who we are and trying to decipher the things that we go through at home with being in college at the same time until we're here. And it's we've already been through this stuff. We can take the younger generation, start even younger than college.
Yeah.
They can start businesses by high school. And we just not taking advantage of the opportunity to give them that opportunity because it took us so long to make that realization.
Ooh.
Next, I'm going to tie this back to the original.
I'm up next. I got you.
I know you got my back. I'm waiting for you. You don't know. I'm praying over here for you. Next, I'm going to tie this back to the family aspect of it because I grew up in a single parent household, but I wasn't always in a single parent household. My household had 2 parents at one time, and then divorce happened, and that household changed. And so the dynamics of me as a kid had to change as well, because while I was still in a household with 2 parents, they were just broken. So me as a kid still had to grow up just as fast, because now you got 2 broken people together. And it's like, okay, well, what do you do? What do you do? Yeah, y'all just taking up. Not necessarily. I love my parents, my mommy, rest in peace. I love you too. But not necessarily are they like just taking up space, because they're a very vital part of my life. But no, I get you. No, because I repeated you, so I affirmed it. But it's still one of those things where you have to fill in the missing pieces. And once my parents divorced, me as a kid, then I became what was missing out of my family, which was a father figure, which was a male presence in the household. So I literally started doing everything I thought my dad should have been doing. So that was whether that's opening the doors for my mom or going out, making sure that we had everything provider-wise. I think that's I guess, it's not a male role, but it's a societal male role, which is to be a provider. And so those dynamics came into play when I got to college as well, because I felt like I needed to, this is where mentorship plays, provide for everybody else. And making sure that everybody else has what they need as well.
Oh, okay. So, well, kind of to talk about what you were saying, I think it's important to realize that maybe part of why we don't start thinking about our identity until we're in college is because we have all these things to figure out first. What I've heard from a lot of your stories is that like you had to become another role other than just the kid. So it's hard for you to figure out who you are if you are being the parent as well. So I think that's why we take the college time to do that. And then my second part was that kind of similar to you also is that I didn't start in a single family house, but when my parents were together, it was extremely male dominated. Despite like him not being the breadwinner, maybe that was like his overcompensation for it. Like it was just extremely male dominated. I have the final say, and it resulted in a lot of like backlash because my mom is a strong woman. She was like, no, buddy. But so then that translated to them separating, and also me kind of taking on like the mother role, and for my sisters because I have a million siblings. So it was like, I mean, like why did they keep having kids? I don't know. But and it was just so then I went into my relationships thinking that like I didn't like the way my dad was, so I was like I have to be the dominant one. I have to take control of all of this, and it kind of crippled a few relationships. And then I was like, hold on, it's not them, it's me. And it's because of my past. So then I like into my current relationship, it's kind of a it's kind of
learned.
I can't see, but
I learned, and it was like we have to recognize that sometimes we're going to be dominant and sometimes we're not. And it's like learning from each other in different areas where the other one has more knowledge or more experience, and knowing that it doesn't have to be one way or the other because of our gender.
It's that superwoman syndrome.
That superwoman syndrome. And
it's real.
with that superwoman syndrome, it takes a lot of self-reflection. And I think that a lot of times we misconstrue self-awareness for self-reflection. Because you can know how you feel, but do you know why you're feeling that way? And I think until this day, that's something I'm working on the why aspect, and being blatantly honest with myself on saying, I feel like this because of this. And I might not, it might not be appropriate for me to feel like that, but I feel like that. And vocalizing those feelings in spaces. How do you guys maneuver vocalizing your feelings and your emotions in positions of leadership, not even necessarily positions, with leadership as a whole? How do you guys stay true to what you guys feel and vocalize that to other people and not think, oh, I'm being too emotional, or you know.
Well, okay, so that's a good question because it still ties into my answer to the last question. But I gotta speak to the last question and answer
Yes.
So okay, but I'm gonna tie it all together.
Yes.
So one thing I just want to say about the points you two made is that I think the reason we start thinking so differently or so much with a more open worldview in college is because for the first time for many people, you learn that your reality or the realities that you knew are not standard.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, when I came to college is where I learned that all the racism that I experienced growing up was not normal for everybody else that looked like me. Mm-hmm. And so you start learning things about the world and other people and their experiences, and that's when you think when the light turns on to go back, because you realize there's people where you came from living those realities that you didn't know they were living. And for me, like home life, leadership, so like you all, I grew up in a single parent household, but with my mother. And something about her, my mom is like so super, super strong. Yeah. And she never let us know when something was wrong. Like I tell you, I've probably seen my mother cry like once in my life because she hides it. She just hides it so well. And even as a kid, like with financial stuff, like I remember coming home and the lights were off and like they wouldn't turn on, but I didn't know why, and my mother would not let us know why. She made it seem like just something was wrong with the light company, I don't know, and she called and lied and told them that we were sick and something was, I don't know, but they turned it on, and it took me years to understand that. And I remember my freshman year when I was away from home, because I used to be just such a brat to my mom. Yeah. And I remember my freshman year at one point, after like going through like depression and like all the stuff in life just really hit me hard as soon as I left home, you know, and I was experiencing all these emotions. I remember one day I just broke down because I realized that all of these things that I'm facing and all of the battles that I've had to fight, my mother has had to too. Like while she was being a parent, she was also a normal person too, and every emotion was being felt by her. And so that was just such an overwhelming thought for me to process, because like the feelings I were feeling were just terrible, were so overwhelming. And then I was like, wow, she's had to have that, but also raise 2 kids at the same time on her own. And so how I take away from that, you know, I had to be a very independent kid, though I did have my brother, like laundry at the age of 5, like make lunch for school, like all of that was done by us. And so now the way I see things and the way that my mom was, when something happens, whether I'm working with a group or when I'm working with other family members or whatever, no matter how bad things get, I never ever, you know, feel like this is the end. And that's the way my mom led the house. No matter how bad things get, no matter what's happening, it's never the end. And you shouldn't let this stop you or break you. And so even last summer, my 9-year-old cousin died, and it was so unexpected. And I remember that was the first time anyone ever died. I was bawling my eyes out. I called my mom. She's like, don't cry in front of the kids. And so I had to go around like the kids in the family, his little siblings, and just like be stone cold and keep things moving and take them out and do stuff with them. And while it hurt, I feel like that taught them a very valuable lesson that while stuff can be wrong and it's not bad to feel emotion, you shouldn't let it break you or stop you. And that's the way I lead, that it's never the end.
I think that in my experience, I grew up with not being able to let those emotions out. So I think that now in this space that I'm in, I'm a very big stickler with letting yourself feel those things in whatever arena it looks like. So, like if you have to cry, cry. You know, if you have to laugh, laugh. Maybe it's a nervous laugh, maybe it's a uncomfortable laugh, but feel those emotions out in whatever way it comes to you. But also know that when other people try to belittle you as a woman for feeling those emotions, you have all rights to say, hello, I'm a human being, and I'm experiencing this, that, and the third, and I get the time to experience it. I get whatever time, blah, blah. And of course it's warranted by the situation you're in, because sometimes you don't have enough time to, you know, feel out as much as you want to feel out, but you deserve that as a human being to let yourself experience those emotions. And I think that right now in the space that I'm in, being president of the FSU's chapter of the NAACP, there has been so much over expectations that people have had of me as a leader, and it's different because of the factor of my age and because of the factor of me being a woman. It's you can't fuck up, you know. Excuse my French.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah. you can't mess up. We expect you to be ready. Something happened. What's next, Tazzy? Tell us. We're ready. Give us the answer now. Right now. Not tomorrow. Now. Answer. And it's hard because I've been programmed to do that growing up. So I let myself fill that space until mid-semester. I kind of had a breakdown, and I realized, wow, why am I feeling that? And why am I being so hard on myself? It's because I let myself go to these expectations. I let myself live to the expectation. And it feels like every day I'm always in a rush, I'm always in a hurry, and I'm always...
She don't believe in time, y'all.
I don't believe in time, but I'm working on work in progress. But it's to the point where now, if you can't acknowledge that when I'm a human being first, and I'm allowed to acknowledge emotions, then we can't have a conversation. And I get the whole take emotions out of business, but at the end of the day, person, you're not a robot.
He's like built on emotions.
And the way you have effective change is having it transformed through passion, through emotion, through all those stuff. That's when people do stuff on their own. That's when people take initiative because they actually care. That's when things are actually for real, and it's not for fake. It's just not an exchange of behavior through different people. And it took a while to learn that, and I'm still learning that right now.
That's what's missing out of business, though, is the passion.
And that's why a lot of it just fails.
Yeah, and that's why people think business and passion are two different things, and it's really not. You have a business that is your passion. That's success. Yeah. And when you try to separate business and passion, then that's where becoming too emotional is now a problem, because you're not supposed to be emotional when you're conducting business. But if my business is my heart, you can't tell me that I don't have a right to my own heart.
You want to know another thing, like when it comes to passion, like Black families, for example, we're taught. I feel like we're taught and trained. Hey, you can't do certain things because it's not going to make you money. But what about what I want to do? What about the vision that I have? You know what I'm saying? Like growing up, my dad always told me, because I remember I wanted to be an artist, then a singer, then a dancer. You know, cliche. But my dad told me, he was like, "You're not gonna make any money with that."
You're right.
Even right now, I told him I added on an entrepreneurship minor because I'm interested in entrepreneurship. I remember being on the phone with him. He told me, he was like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna go to law school." I'm like, "Why can't I go to law school and also be an entrepreneur? Like that's gonna tie into my entrepreneurship. Why can't I go to law school for like consulting or something that is gonna help my business or help my entrepreneurship?" So like, we're taught to grow up at an early age. So then we have this vision of, okay, my life should be here, but we're only 19, we're only 20. Why won't we just follow our passions? So I feel like that's a conversation that is a conversation in itself.
And I think a lot of that has to deal with a lot of our parents didn't have the opportunity to get to choose what they wanted to do. They landed in places that you got to do whatever is going to make you the most money because you have a family to provide for. You have responsibilities. In our space, we're lucky, and we have to acknowledge our privilege. Yes. We have a privilege to follow our path. Like, it's not even a privilege. You have, like, basically the right to follow your passion because people have sacrificed so much for you to be in the space to choose what you want to do for yourself and whatever that looks like. And that's funny because at first I wanted to become a dentist, right? Yes! And I used to make dentures and everything. I'm a certified dentalist. Technician.
Girl,
it's technician.
Y'all had a conversation with her. I said, "Tab,
right.
you gotta be a lawyer. I see you as a lawyer." She went, "Oh no."
And you know why I said that? You know why I said that? Because everything I did in high school led me up to set myself up in college so that I can be, you know, more advanced than people in my prospective field of dentistry. So I was certified in this. Oh, I can get an internship or job somewhere, and then that's gonna lead me to this, that, and the third, and that's gonna lead. And I was gonna be the top Black girl in this because I did this to lead me to there. Because you always have to. I feel like it's this stereotype that you always have to work harder than the other people to be even recognized. So when I came to college and I was like, wow, I really don't love this. I like it, but I don't love it. I'm gonna have to start over? No. Nope. I'm keeping up the spread. Nope, I'm not starting over. How dare I let all my work go to waste? But in all actuality, it was an experience that I needed to go through.
I think I agree. I can relate to Amryss' experience because that's the same thing that happened when I called my mom and I told her I was in singing. My mother said, what? I did not send you to school. But you to go out there and get to be a part of somebody SBA. And I remember I wanted her to come to my induction so bad. But it's funny because she still bought my outfit for the inauguration. She still went all out for it. But I wanted her to come to my inauguration so bad, and she was like, yeah, nah, because I didn't tell you to go out there and do that. but because you're my child, I'm still going to support you from afar. And when I told her, she was like, more like, yeah, no, because I didn't tell you to do that, but also because she didn't understand what Senate was.
Yeah.
So when I told her I was a part of Senate, she didn't get what that meant. So she automatically shut it down because she didn't understand it. And the more I remember, I had to have a conversation. It was like right after I got inaugurated. Something happened on campus where they designated me as the designated black girl to go speak to this person about racism. So we met at Chili's back when Chili's was on campus. And I called her. I was like, Mom, I gotta go talk to this person about why what they did was racist. And she's like, why you gotta go talk to them about why what they did was racist? I said, because I'm quote unquote the designated black girl here. She said, so this whole little Senate thing you're doing is for you to be the designated black girl. And it's so funny because, like I said, she didn't understand that definition. So as I was able to create what that definition of a senator meant for her, what the definition of politics meant for her as we progressed on and as my time in Senate went on, then she understood because my great-grandfather survived the civil rights era. So he saw Martin Luther King. He had to be escorted to school. And so as I related the experiences that I had to have in college to the same stuff she done heard all her life and the same things that her father and my great-grandfather has been through, then she's like, okay, go ahead. I guess you can go to Chili's, girl. Like, and it takes that understanding. It takes that, like Tazzy said, we're at a privilege being in this position. And we have to use that privilege as leverage to educate everybody. And I don't think that's a next generation thing. That's sometimes the generation above us.
Yeah. I think I should say this topic is well embedded with a lot of layers, a lot of problems, and it's a freaking onion. But yeah, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to delve a little bit deeper in conversations that we need to be having on every campus across boards, every communities across boards, everywhere. We need to be talking about these things because women, we need support. We need support from our own selves, and we need support from other genders. We need support from other religions, other races, everywhere.
Yes.
So I want you guys to think about one thing that you guys want to leave with our audience today. What do you want to close off on? What do you want to tell them as they're seeking out leadership in their environments, in their schools, in their campuses? What would you tell that person, particularly a woman?
I don't want to go first. I'm trying to.
Anyone.
I'm not ready. I gotta collect my thoughts.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I'll go. Okay.
I was ready.
She's ready. She's ready.
All right. Tanya, Sally, Sam, Amryss, Octavia, Jasmine, Maddie, Sarah,
What list is this?
Justin,
Chris.
So you picked up on
Everyone, whatever your name is, wherever you are, remember that you are uniquely you, and there is nobody that can compare to the experiences that you have experienced and the skill sets that you have, regardless if you think if it's adequate enough, because you, there's nobody else like you, at all, ever. So be you, yeah.
I'm gonna just say it. I'm gonna keep it short and simple. You are a force to be reckoned with. Period. Drop mic.
All right, these
Someone else
eyes.
pick up the
I'll
mic.
go. Okay.
Yes.
You kind of inspired me, Tazzy. I think a really good conversation I had recently was I'm always trying to be really reflective of the space I take in any area, like how much I say, making sure everyone has like an equal opportunity, you know? And sometimes I'm like, well, I just didn't feel like I could take space. And I think that what I want to leave everyone with is no matter who you are, what you identify as, you can take space. You deserve to take that space, and everyone around you is also able to take that space, and there's enough for everyone, you know?
Yes.
That's all.
Girl, space is a whole nother conversation. I think, I don't know what I don't know. Leave everybody with. I think what I would leave everybody with is whatever you think is holding you back or threatening other people is actually a weapon for you to protect yourself and for you to advance. So like we talked about our bodies, we talked about our voices, all of those things are things that threaten some sort of demographic. And that demographic is threatened because it's actually power. So be empowered by whatever you think is holding you back or whatever you think that other people do not approve of.
Okay, and finally me, believe bigger, because insecurity does not meet ambition. You cannot allow what you see another person doing to affect what you believe that you should do. Because if God gave you that idea, then clearly He's going to allow it to manifest. Because everyone has their unique talents. So yeah.
Yay! Well, we are done with episode 2 of A Broken Conversation. They really want to do at names, and I know you hear Octavia in the back, so go ahead and do the at names real quick.
I honestly didn't want to do mine. I wanted them to do theirs. But my at name is I Am Love 721.
At Maddie Schaff, MADDIESHAFF.
I'm gonna do a pause real quick and add to a point and just say that you do not serve a God of confusion.
Ooh.
Peace.
Where confusion is, Jesus is not there.
Boom.
Yes.
So follow your gut and do what's right, and don't let any walls or any confusion take you away from your mission. But anyways, my at is at JDALI, J Dolly.
Okay, and finally me, I have 2 ats. So my main is @_dark_skin next door. Literally spell out every word. It's all together. And then my business account is @minks next door, MINKS next door.
Woo! Well, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.